Our opening words today are reading 22 from Lifting Our Voices, written by Marta Valentine. We pause this morning from the chaos of the world to reclaim the beauty within these walls that carry us through the week. We lift this community onto our shoulders with pride and grace-filled expectations for our children and our children's children. Hello, everyone. On behalf of the entire congregation, I welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Shenandoah Valley. I am Nancy Tickner, and together with Henry Tickner, we are your worship associates for today's service. We gather together with our doubts as well as our convictions, with our fears and our hopes, with our failures and our aspirations, with our sorrows and our joys. Whether you are joining us today for the first time or you've been a member or friend for many years, we are very glad you are with us. Whatever faiths you have known, if any, whatever your background, whoever you are, whomever you love, however you arrived here, you are welcome. And now, as Henry comes forward, let us all say together the words for lighting our chalice. In the light of truth and in the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, to share. And I invite you to join with me as we say our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament. To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help our neighbor. To these ends, we covenant one with another.
Please join with me now in a time of silence as we hold in our hearts all those in our nation and the world who are struggling with ongoing, sometimes unbearable challenges, hardships, and losses. Our words of meditation this morning come from reading 483 by Wendell Berry. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water and the great heron feeds. I come into the presence of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. And for a time, I rest in the grace of the world, and I am free.
Our words for reflection are reading number 32 from Lifting Our Voices, written by Bernadette Burns. Let us take a moment to relax and catch our breath. Let us bring our focus here to this room, to whatever space you are in, with whom you are gathered, and to this moment. We bring a myriad of talents, ideas, needs, and styles. Yet within this diversity, there is a common bond between us. We love this congregation, and we are willing to work together to improve and to strengthen this community of ours and our lives. And our second reading is from Henry James. We work in the dark. We do what we can. We give what we have. Our doubt is our passion, and our passion is our task. The rest is the madness of art.
Welcome to the Coming Home art exhibit at the UU Church of the Shenandoah Valley, where you can see 26 works by 17 artists in a wide variety of media. The artists are all members and friends of the church. This exhibit was conceived by the Aesthetics Task Group to correspond with the reopening of church at our annual September in-gathering service and picnic. We were very excited about being together again after a year apart and wanted to help celebrate. Unfortunately, after some very hopeful news earlier in the summer, the increase of COVID-19 cases in the valley eventually required we cancel all plans for in-person gatherings for the foreseeable future. However, not to be discouraged, the aesthetics group decided to go ahead with the virtual exhibit. The task group hung and labeled all the works in the sanctuary walls as if they were going to be visited by the congregation every Sunday in person. And thanks to the ease of smartphones and other electronic gadgets and programs, as well as the expertise of the tech team, we've been able to assemble photographs of the art and audio recordings by the artists explaining their work. This is a work of love by many. The show is scheduled to be hung through October 24th. Many of the works are for sale, and the artists have agreed to donate 20% of the sale to the church. Please contact the artist directly if you are interested in purchasing a piece. This is the first of its kind for this congregation, and we hope you enjoy our show. Thank you.
My name is Norma Riley, and the painting I did is of the Memes Bottom Bridge. A friend had seen my gallery. That's all the paintings I have hanging in my house, which I call the gallery, and noticed that I do a lot of landscapes. Then the friend suggested I paint this bridge and sent me some pictures. I decided to paint the one with the snow to make a nice contrast. The bridge is in Shenandoah County near Mount Jackson. It is the longest in Virginia at 204 feet. It was built in 1892 over the North Fork of the Shenandoah River by Franklin Heiser Whistler so that he could reach his apple orchard. My first effort didn't work out, so on this one I left out some details and that worked out better. The friend saw a picture of the painting and said it was beautiful, so that made me think it might be good enough for our art show.
Hello, I'm Marty Matheson. I'm a mixed media artist based in Winchester, Virginia. I work in many types of materials, including paint, pen and ink, fabric, ribbon, papers of all types, newspapers, basically anything that I can successfully layer and glue onto a wooden panel. You are apparently standing in front of the painting, The Painted Desert. This is primarily a fabric painting with layers of acrylic paint to accentuate and to define some of the elements of the landscape. My landscape paintings and even my abstract work is inspired by many years of travel, often from a long time ago, but recollected and reworked onto paintings. Thank you for viewing my painting.
Kristen Comida Zimmett, Lovers in the Rock. I took this photograph at the Museum of the Shenandoah Valley. There's a small henge up on the hill, and the rocks have wonderful patterns. In this rock, right away I saw the man on the left, but it was only after hours of work and contemplation that the woman emerged beside him. Having lost my husband, I see in this image what it is to love in spite of time. The couple are alive, but they're fossil traces. They're active, strong, and they're illusions, sketches. Their love is lasting, and it is ephemeral. Immersion. I have a fascination with hot springs. I actually swam my way around the whole of Iceland, traveling from spring to spring, or, as they say, hot pot to hot pot. I photographed this pool at Yellowstone National Park. Of course, it was too hot for a human swimmer, but not too hot for a spirit, so I put one there. The spirit belongs to earth, fire, air, and water, My artistic challenge was to balance these elements and show how they commingle. I'm not certain whether the title should be Immersion or Emergence. It makes a difference.
Hello, I'm Alice Irvin, a mixed media artist using mainly acrylic, ink, and watercolor. My works range from small 5x7-inch watercolors to acrylic works on canvas as large as 2x3 feet. In this exhibition, I have two paintings. One is from my floral series called Blooming Pink. In this, you can enjoy the contrast of light flowers on the darker background. The second painting is a small abstract called Coming Home with pink, orange, and warm colors. I painted it early in the pandemic when I envisioned a future of coming home and mingling freely with others. I expressed my optimism. I'm influenced by Fauvism, nature, and geometric shapes. I love multiple layers in my paintings. In Indianapolis, I studied with teachers from the Heron School of Art. In Winchester, I've studied with various teachers through online connections, getting a contemporary global perspective.
Greetings, this is Barbara Peters. I am presenting two paintings of flowers from my own garden. Bold lilies and shy dogwood are shades of pink as nature paints them. My intention is not to duplicate nature, but to create nature without clutter, flowers in their simplest form, the way that I love them. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bob Blessman. I painted the watercolor piece The Seeker in 2020, early in the pandemic and toward the end of the Trump fiasco, if it had an end. With the figure facing hills, it's a strange portrait, perhaps reflecting the search for truth and certainty in an era when mendacity and uncertainty seem to prevail. The figure is bald to contrast with the former president. I chose colors, warm in the foreground and cool in the distant background, that I thought suggested an ultimately optimistic perspective. I actually painted Gala in 2019 before the pandemic, but perhaps with the colorful marks reminding of confetti rising as though part of a welcome celebration, I aim for surcease from the tragedy, already political and not yet medical. The piece is done in gouache, which is opaque watercolor basically, and ink. I painted it for the Artscape banner competition sponsored by Shen Arts, and it was selected and hung on the Old Town Mall, visible from a joyous spot known as Village Square Restaurant.
My name is Phyllis, and my lifelong love for gardening with flowers and vegetables and landscaping and plantscaping has greatly inspired my artwork.
Hello, I'm Rebecca Allen, and this is my fiber piece, Isopleth 2. It's an art quilt designed around the theme of weather. As an explanation of the title, an isopleth is a line of constant measurement, such as seen on weather maps. I designed and printed the turquoise fabrics using isopleth lines and weather map symbols. The red highlight fabric was commercially printed. This is considered an improvisational quilt because I didn't work from a pattern. Rather, I repeatedly sewed, then cut, then turned strips of fabric until I achieved what I thought was a pleasing composition. Lastly, I quilted with more isopleth lines, highlighting some of them with dark turquoise yarn. I don't have a particular interest in weather except for how it affects my daily life, but this project demonstrates that you can find inspiration in unlikely places.
I am Alan Deck of Middletown, and this is entitled Catamania for the Committed Cat Enthusiast. I love unusual framing possibilities, round, triangular, etc. And this piece is a collection of enhanced prints of some of my cat designs in silhouette. I have also created them with color, and all are available in larger prints and greeting cards. I am Alan Deck of Middletown. I call this piece the Caddy Wagon. It's of mixed media, pencil, acrylic, including a wooden medallion as the wagon wheel. It's one of a few dozen cat designs I created over the past few years, inspired by my work of rescuing cats and living with 4 felines. The Chihuahua adds a comic touch. I have been doing art and poetry off and on since my teens, and my works are in a number of private collections.
Hi, I'm Lori Crockett. Last January during the pandemic, I put together a workshop on the St. Francis Prayer. I and Ariane Young, Dorothy Lowe, Sandra Henry Stalker, and Mary Baldwin wrote our own versions of the St. Francis Prayer. I wanted to share these and honor these personal and wonderful prayers with everyone. I met Mickey Leeper and found out that she was a calligrapher. I asked her if she could turn these prayers into calligraphy, and afterwards we decided we would mount them on a large brown cloth reminiscent of something that might have been worn by St. Francis of Assisi. We added twine to represent a rope belt that he might have worn. This wall hanging is a wonderful collaboration among women that I have since become good friends with. I am very proud of what we have created, and I hope you will enjoy it. Thank you.
I am Nancy Tickner, and my first exhibited photograph at UUCSV is titled True North. In this picture, I was captivated by the majestic, dormant volcanic mountains, intertwined with the gentle fjords near a small lodge we were staying in western Iceland this past August. While I don't think of myself as an artist, I am told that I have a good eye for composition. Constructing, editing, and sharing my photographs brings me great satisfaction and peacefulness. Whether in my neighborhood or in other states and foreign countries, looking for large and small moments of beauty or intrigue is my form of mindfulness. It is part of my daily routine to take fairly long walks, and I always bring my Samsung smartphone with me. And my second exhibited photograph at church is titled Nature's Wonder in Iceland. We were fortunate to take a recent vacation to explore the western half of Iceland. Its glaciers, ubiquitous lava fields, seascapes, geysers, and massive waterfalls make for a photographer's dream vacation. It was a challenge to decide which 2 photos to select for this members' art show. In this picture, I tried to capture part of Gullfoss Falls, translated to Golden Falls in English, which was particularly thrilling to get close to. I was drawn to the deep perspective of how small the visitors looked compared to the immensity and power of the double falls dropping into a 105-foot wide crevice. As I got closer, with the increasingly massive mist and spray, I was very glad I had my raincoat on and that my smartphone camera was fairly waterproof.
This is Suzanne Leroux, my painting of the bird sitting on a branch in the winter time in the state of wonderment, anticipation, waiting. Perhaps I'm projecting onto the bird, but when I did the painting a couple of years ago, I was in a class where everybody was painting independently, and I had great fun working on developing all the different shades of blue that were in the painting, and also creating a bird that was looked like it maybe was a post-COVID bird with a little bit too much weight in it. But it was a great opportunity to take a very careful look at the apples and at the branches, and as in most things in life, taking time to look at what would be obvious and hoping to try to recreate it is quite an adventure. I hope you enjoy our exhibit. Thank you.
This is Anne Sinclair Lessman. My watercolor painting on Eagle's Wings has been made into an artscape banner and is hanging over Boscawen Street in Winchester. I had been commissioned to paint a scene of the Shenandoah River by a friend. Since I knew that there were a pair of bald eagles on the river near the place he loved and wanted a painting of, I suggested including an eagle. He enthusiastically agreed. This eagle was a practice painting for the river scene. It's not the traditional view of the American bald eagle. I love the painting for its energy and movement. My painting, Nobody Sees Us, is a watercolor. Its title is a phrase from Sylvia Plath's enigmatic poem, Mushrooms. Some have interpreted it as a kind of feminist manifesto, but others see the mushrooms as representing other things. The mushrooms in Plath's poem are white, but I love color, and I made my mushrooms glow red. I particularly like the idea that something so bright can be completely hidden on the forest floor where nobody sees it. But, as the poet says, we shall by morning inherit the earth.
Mosaic is an intriguing art form that thrives today as it did many centuries ago. It is my new art medium, and I wryly refer to it as needlepoint in rock, a reference to my mother's labor-intensive sewing creations, which I once dismissed as overly painstaking and time-consuming relative to my action drawings. When I was introduced to contemporary and speedy methods of mosaic making, the veil was lifted. Mosaic is a medium halfway between drawing and painting, very suitable for me, as my work retains a linear quality. It works well in small scale and has thus enabled me to transition from the large work of my youth to a more manageable size as I age. I am developing several themes, some celestial, others figurative, some arising spontaneously out of images I perceive in leftover scraps of glass. The deliberative process of choosing, shaping, and gluing pieces of glass induces the state of timelessness that social scientists call flow, recognized by monks the world over as contemplation. Needlepointing in rock suspends me in the eternal moment.
Diaco Floyd. The title of the photograph is Happiness Is. This scene was photographed in June 2017 using Nikon DX 300 zoom. My husband Walter is feeding his birds by the pond, talking and whispering to the geese, ducks, chickens, pigeons, and once in a while to deer. The timing of this shot I love is a pigeon flying in the center and two deer look like kissing. This peaceful moment is his happiest moment of everyday country life.
Our closing words this morning are by the Reverend Gordon McKeeman, a former minister of this church, and is reading number 19 from Lifting Our Voices. How does one address a mystery? Cautiously. Let us go cautiously then to the end of our certainty, to the boundary of all that we know, to the rim of uncertainty, to the perimeter of the unknown which surrounds us.
Reverently, let us go with a sense of awe, a feeling approaching the powerful holy, whose lightning slashes the sky, whose persistence splits concrete with green sprouts, whose miracles are present in every place and moment.
Hopefully, our need for wholeness in our own lives, the reconciliation of mind and heart, the conjunction of reason and passion, the intersection of the timeless with time.
Quietly, for no words will explain the inarticulate or summon the presence that is always present, even in our absence.
But what shall I say? Anything, any anger, any hope, any fear, any joy, any request, any word that comes from the depth of being addressed to being itself, or perhaps nothing, no complaint, no request, no entreaty, no thanksgiving, no praise, no blame, no pretense of knowing or not knowing.
Simply be in the intimate presence of mystery, unashamed, unadorned, unafraid. And at the end, say, Amen.
Now, as we extinguish our chalice, let us say together the words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of our community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again. The purpose of the church is to engage all who gather to grow more generous in spirit and action. We hope you will consider making an offering after today's service through our webpage, uushenandoah.org, which allows us to exercise that generosity of spirit for this self-supporting church and its many ministries. Go in peace. Have a great week.
Hello, I'm Mark Lohr, speaking for the Social Action and Justice Committee. The Share of the Plate recipient for November is the nonprofit agency Church World Service, which oversees refugee resettlement around the United States, including in much of the Shenandoah Valley. The CWS here has its main office in Harrisonburg, but plans to establish a branch office in Winchester by the end of this year. This is fortuitous since the U.S. is currently faced with a challenge of resettling up to 75,000 Afghan refugees who had to flee their homes this past summer. It's estimated that at least around 100 of these will come to the valley, and some will likely settle in our area. For this reason, our Social Action and Justice Committee has decided to make refugee resettlement our congregation's SAJ main theme for the balance of the current church year. Susan Lepley will provide a brief video introduction to CWS activities and plans. She serves as the CWS Virginia Director for Immigration and Refugee Resettlement, overseeing the Harrisonburg and future Winchester offices. Susanna earned her master's degree in peace studies from Anabaptist Biblical Seminary in Elkhart, Indiana. After moving to Virginia with her husband in 2000, she worked with local Mennonite churches to start an immigrant resource center, which helps refugees and immigrants become acclimated to the valley. She has worked with immigrants and refugees since then in a variety of roles before coming to Church World Service in fall of 2019. Incidentally, Susanna will be speaking at more length via Zoom to our local Valley Interfaith Council on November 17. I'll circulate a link to this session when I have it.
Hello, I'm Susanna Lepley from Church World Service, a 75-year-old worldwide relief agency that seeks to build a world where there is enough for all. CWS started resettling refugees 75 years ago after World War II through a coalition of faith communities. Basically, a person would meet the boats in New York City and look for people who didn't have anyone to meet them. He then asked if they needed help finding their way. If they said yes, he would take them back to CWS headquarters and call churches around the country until they found one that would be willing to take the family. He would then put them on a train and they would be picked up at their destination by their new community. The congregation or faith community would then find them a home, employment, and basically anything they needed to be successful in their new lives. CWS has been operating in Virginia since a plane load of evacuees from Cuba landed in Richmond in 1962. We've been operating an office in Harrisonburg since the 1980s, resettling refugees. CWS in Virginia has resettled over 16,000 refugees since opening offices. CWS is opening an office here in Winchester and is inviting the community to be involved in this rich tradition of welcome. To live out our values and traditions of welcoming people to a new community. We hope to open an office by the end of the year, focusing especially on Afghan evacuees. The primary focus of our program is to have people be self-sufficient as quickly as possible, ideally within 90 days. We will need community volunteers to find housing, learn English, apply for jobs, access healthcare, enroll children in school, register for selective service, and anything else they need to become self-sufficient. As you know, the U.S. evacuated around 120,000 persons from Afghanistan and admitted around 70,000 Afghan parolees to the United States. We expect that around 5,000 will come to Virginia and over 100 will come to the Shenandoah Valley. We need your help to make this happen. They will be housed through a partnership with the Presbyterian Church Camp, Massanutten Springs, until permanent housing can be found. You can help by making a financial contribution to CWS in Winchester. You can help by helping find permanent housing that Afghans can rent in the community. And you can help by volunteering to teach English, set up houses, find jobs, or provide transportation. Thank you very much for your willingness to be involved and very much for your time.